again, thank you, Rain, thank you for the invitation to participate in this conversation. So when Lauren reached out to me and then connected me with Rain, and I found out that the topic of the conversation was financial health, I was like, is this because I work at a bank? Because I'm not really like in banking. But as Rain and I started to talk about sort of the things that are important to me in the work that I do, some things kind of came out that were important that I talk about and that have led to sort of my financial health. So it's a sort of a windy road, but go with me. How many of you know what it's like to be the only? The only fill in the blank in a meeting. The only fill in the blank on a conference call, or sitting on the dais at a conference. So there are lots of us in this room that know what it's like to be an only. Well, I grew up as an only. So I'm from Raleigh. I grew up on a street where my family was the only black family, only family of color. I grew up in a neighborhood where I went to the elementary school, and I was the only black kid who was a walker. All the other black kids that went to my school, rode buses, and so that's a very different experience. And so when you're an only as a child, that comes with sort of pressure, right? It allows you to learn how to be tolerant and patient, or either forces those things, because when your lived experience is different from shared experiences of your friends, then you learn how to be the one that answers questions. Usually it starts with, how does your hair stay like that? Because my hair looked like Rudy Huxtable, right? Like with the 2 pigtails that would stay. Or if my friends wanted to talk about makeup, they say, oh, well, we've got this nude or that nude. And I'm like, girls, y'all's nude doesn't work for me, because at that point in time, nude meant white. We've come a long way from that, but that's what being an only is like. And so, you go through this windy career. Again, growing up in Raleigh, was communication studies major in college because I'm a talker, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. Started my career right after college. Thought that with a college degree I was going to be able to get a really big raise for my boss where I was working while I was in school, and she's like, hey girl, here's health insurance. I'm like, that's not enough. But I started my career, and it's been in commercial real estate and then in financial services. So again, 2 industries that, like my childhood, positioned me as an only a lot of the time. So you're an only on those conference calls, in those meetings. You're also Myers-Briggs style, ESTJ, so I'm very extroverted. I'm very, very present, very outgoing, just a person who's all over the place. So as I was growing my career, as I was trying to climb that ladder, as I was finding myself as an only in so many of those spaces, what do? Do you lean into who you are naturally? Do you take that onlyness that you've always had with you? Do you take it and say, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna kick butt and I'm gonna have a career? Or do you say, you know what, my onlyness, who I am is too much for this industry. I don't know if y'all know much about commercial real estate or the banking industry, but it's super white and super male. So for somebody like me, a lot of times that can be intimidating or overwhelming. But I want y'all to guess, like, who thinks that I chose to be D? Okay, I chose to be D. I chose to lean into who I am naturally, the outgoing, ESTJ, the person who is okay with having difficult conversations. I'm a go-getter. Sometimes that can be intimidating for people, but I decided to go with it and be who I was. And so as I've done that, that's been the biggest step change for me in my career. I used to try to shrink to what other people thought that I should be in the workplace, right? Always the one to never disagree because I didn't want to be characterized as an angry black woman. But now I'm, almost 40, so I get to say, hey, I'm angry and I'm a black woman, but I'm not your angry black woman, right? So that's kind of what's happened for me. And what that's turned into is growth and professional accomplishment. So while we're talking about financial health, my ability to lean into who I am, my ability to accept being an only really has allowed me to be in spaces that a lot of the folks who are like me, who are onlys, they don't know. They don't know about these spaces. They don't know about these compensation plans. They don't know that stock could be part of your compensation or that there's a bonus target that you might be able to negotiate. That's stuff that for people who are onlys, we don't necessarily know about. So when I think about the growth that I've experienced professionally and what that's turned into for me financially, I can only say that it's a credit to my ability to accept who I am and step into that in the workplace. And so the work that I do now, I lead diversity and inclusion, which is like the best of all worlds for me. I get to talk and sort of evangelize about what it's like to be an only in an effort to reduce the number of onlys in the workplace. So I advocate and do a lot of work around increasing the representation of underrepresented groups in banking and finance. So mostly women and minorities, but all dimensions of diversity. But I'm also really keen on increasing access to opportunity for minority entrepreneurs, and I do that through my nonprofit work. But all of that work, everything that I do and how busy my days are, and sometimes my nights, all that is in an effort to increase the number of people who look like me so that we can decrease the number of people who have those stories about being onlys.